Good afternoon. What a privilege it is to be able to stand here with the opportunity to share to the graduate class. These folks have completed the requirements to become counselors, to go out into a society that is hurting and to help them. And I've had the privilege numerous times to stand before you. And the word that comes to mind is a statement that is attributed to Thomas Edison. And I think all of us, the undergraduate class, the graduate class, all of us, including faculty, we can profit from these words when Mr. Edison said, "If we did all the things that we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves." Hear that one more time. If we did all the things that we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. This may be a pretty astounding day for you, because 2 years ago you started on a journey that I think you thought you could complete, but yet you didn't know all that was laying in store. You didn't know what all these people had up their sleeves for you. But now, 2 years later, you have astounded yourself. And you can continue to astound yourself, because this occasion is not just a graduation from an accredited program, even though it is that. This is an occasion that tells you that you do not have to back down from any challenges ever again. You know, we all have some limitations that we recognize in ourselves, and sometimes those limitations cause us to say, I can't go that far, I can't do that. Well, when we make our entrance, you see us as doctors, and we come in and it looks as though maybe we have excelled in certain areas. But it's also very fitting and appropriate to take you back to where we started, because some of you will pursue doctoral work. And you might find yourself once again saying, I don't know if I can. Can I astound myself again? I found a couple of documents that I'd like to use as references. These are my citations. And I want to give you a literature review on Gary Patton. It's very brief. The documents are my kindergarten report card and my first grade report card. In a sense, I wish they'd been destroyed long ago, but another way, maybe it's good that they weren't. Here is the verdict from long ago. The kindergarten teacher said, Gary likes to talk and play when he should be paying attention. Actually, Dean Rigney, I think you said that one time about me. My first grade teacher said this, Gary could profit from some outside work on vocabulary, reading, and writing. With work in these areas, he should grow more interested in school. And here I stand teaching. I guess I did get more interested in school. Well, I share that because all of us could look back at some point in our lives and say, well, you know, I could have done this, but, or that was going pretty good, except. And we've got some verdict from somebody that says, hold on, not so fast, you can't. And today I would like for us to dispel those memories and those beliefs in our mind, because as a cognitive behavioral therapist, did you know that's what I was? Remember that? I hope I didn't persuade you too strongly in that area, but it's a good theory to use. One of the better ones to use, actually. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, our beliefs control many of the things that we do or attempt to do or don't attempt to do. And today you're in that position to be able to say, I've done some things I didn't know I could do. Let me put it in a very lighthearted context. A minister told me one time that he was preaching, and as he stood at the pulpit, he heard some rumbling out in the congregation, and he couldn't quite detect what it was, but he knew it was a child, a young child that was saying something. And he kept delivering his message, And he kept hearing the child, and he finally was able to locate it somewhere over on his left side, and he kept kind of looking, wondering if there was something urgent happening, and it kept getting louder and louder, and finally it became loud enough that everybody in the place could hear it. It was a little 2-year-old girl, about 2.5, I think, and she was saying, "Mommy, me ga go potty." Well, the mother couldn't get out. She was in the middle of the aisle, middle of the pew, so she finally and she let the little one out by herself, and she went proudly prancing off to go to the potty. And she was gone, and she was gone, and the mother started nervously looking around, wondering if she needed to go check on her, and waiting to see if she was coming back. And then one moment changed everything. As she glanced over her shoulder, and she saw the back doors to the sanctuary open, and here she came, with her little outfit and her little underwear down around her ankles, and she proudly announced, "Mommy, me done now." To which the pastor said, "Me too." Well, you can go to your parties today and you can tell your family, maybe in a little bit more sophisticated way, but you can tell them, "Me done now." At least for a while, because remember what I told you though, you don't have to back down from any challenges ever again. Very proud of you, very proud of the chance I've had to be in classrooms with you. Dean Rigney, Associate Dean Bryant, faculty, some of you have taught them. We have high achievers in our program, but this class, if you look up high achiever, I think their picture is there. They take it very personal if they do not excel. And they don't take it personal against the faculty, they take it personal on themselves. Why didn't I do better? How couldn't I have done this? Why didn't I study harder? They take it very personal when they don't reach the higher level. And that impresses me because, as I told you, there's a hurting world who needs you. And I want to conclude my comments to you by telling you something about that hurting world. A friend of mine, who is also a counselor with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, was deployed to Ground Zero in Manhattan on the atrocious day of 9/11. And for several days following that, she was deployed there as a counselor. And we all know the cowardice of terrorism, the wrong that was done there, and the tragic, unimaginable loss of human life. And people had waded in there, literally waded into that rubble to try to help, to try to find those who were living, to find the remains of those who had died. And her job was to stand at the perimeter of Ground Zero and to help the helpers as they came out, because they would possibly be very upset from having found a body or such things as that. And so she was standing there trying to do her duty of doing debriefing and counseling to people coming off of the mound, as they called it, of the World Trade Center. She stood there for a full day. People walked past her. They weren't rude, they just didn't stop. And finally on the second day, a soiled, sweaty, tired and angry firefighter walked up squarely in front of her and said, "Who are you?" She said, "I'm a counselor with the FBI. What are you doing?" "Well, I'm here to do debriefings. I'm here to help those of you who are coming off of the mound and possibly need some psychological assistance." And he said to her, "You can't help us." And she sort of blinked and he said, "You are too clean. You are too clean." He said, "Let me help you." He took her over to the bucket line, the brigade of people who were literally passing out debris by the bucketful. And he gave her a pair of gloves and he handed her a bucket and he said, "Stand here for a while." And she noticed that as she got more soiled and more sweaty, more stained, people started telling her in the bucket line about their anger, their hurt, their fears, their losses. Capture those words, my colleagues. Colleagues in training is gone. You're my colleagues now. Capture those words. She was too clean. We have had you in a rather sterile place. You had to learn about angel formats, and you had to learn about APA style, and you had to learn about research and statistics and theories. and a lot of things you've had to know, and we had to do that and you had to do that, but now that sterile environment has prepared you to go get dirty.